Okay guys, I got asked again to do a video on how I clean and lubricate my TRP Operator by Springfield. So the last time I did a video, I used this guy. This is my carry pistol and training pistol. I teach a lot of classes with this. You obviously see I've got a red dot on it and all that sort of thing, but I had a lot of classes here recently and this thing was just getting so nasty I could barely touch it. So I decided to go ahead and clean it. And so I'm not going to clean this one this time, even though it's super purty and all. But I do want to go ahead and clean another one. I have a backup TRP operator in case I send this one off to be worked on for any particular reason. And so I went ahead and it really didn't need it either. It probably only had a couple thousand rounds through it. It was kind of dirty, but it wasn't filthy or anything like that. Everything was easy to come off whenever it was time to get it clean. So of course I use brake cleaner. This stuff is like $2 at Walmart. I will say if you can find non-chlorinated for cheap, that's probably better. This may actually be that way, but I don't know. So it is cheaper, but you do definitely need to wear gloves while you're spraying that sort of thing off. Apparently it's bad for your liver. So yeah, keep that in mind because I need my liver to process whiskey. So anyway, I am going to go ahead and get right into it. The stuff I like to use is Slip 2000 Extreme Weapons Grease. This is a big old tub, about quite a bit of money for that whole giant thing, but you can get the small ones and they'll last you forever. And the EWL, this is actually called the gun lube for some reason. It should be the same thing. If I'm wrong, feel free to correct me. But I've been using these two packages themselves for this one for a couple of years now, and this one for a few months now, and they work together just fine. That's a big important thing, is making sure if you're going to be mixing an oil and a grease that they are compatible, because when I was in aviation school, we learned that planes have been brought down by mixing greases and oils that weren't correct, and they actually turn into an abrasive and not an extra lubricant like you're thinking it does. So anyway, so I sprayed all this down. I always want to make sure that I'm getting in here into these locking lugs, or these lugs, whatever the hell they're called, in the slide right here. Those are really important. So I'll take a brush to them. I did that on the last video, but again, you couldn't see me that well. Happily, I've got a couple more things to make videoing a little bit easier here. Make sure these are super clean. Also, of course, your rails, your feed ramp, all that. I've never polished the feed ramp on any of these TRPs because they don't need it. But yeah. You can spray it all completely clean or you can not. It really doesn't matter with this stuff. It's really good. So I found these guns, a lot of people like to call their reliability out and that sort of thing. Well, of course, there's the magazine issue where people put junky magazines in it and expect it to work, you know, like tier 1 operator stuff, and they're putting in, you know, tier 18 turds into it, wondering why it doesn't work. I got ammunition issues, all that sort of thing. And they are a little finicky because they are a Ferrari of handguns. They are not your Honda. So I don't want to get into the pro 1911 versus anti 1911. I really don't care. That's an amateur, stupid argument. And I just don't give a crap about what anybody has to say about it because I've heard it all, and all of it's, I don't even want to get into it. Never mind. I'm going to stop talking about that. Anyway, so let's get to lubricating this thing. So one things that I like to do is I like to use a lot of grease on these because it is a full metal firearm. So I found they're more like AR-15s. They will run dirty all day long, but they don't like to run dry. So one of the biggest things that I see people miss, and if you're like super worried about running too much lube in it, then you can always just use a small amount on everything except right here. You want to put plenty here. I had a buddy with a staccato and was wondering why the slide had got to where it wasn't locking to the rear on the last round. And I was like, hey, it's most likely these guys don't have enough lube on them, or there's a bunch of crap clogged up in it. Sure enough, I pulled his barrel out. It was totally dry right there. Put a little grease on both of those, even with a non-compatible one, other grease. I didn't know what it was, but he didn't care. He just wanted to try it out. And lo and behold, problem fixed. So I want to make sure, above all, that these things are lubricated well. And I get down here into the barrel link, or whatever it's called, and make sure there's plenty in there. Now this is where I'm like, all right, if you want to be done using the grease because you're worried about your optic, like I say, I'll carry this one that has an optic on it. It will throw lube and everything like that over it. whenever I start shooting, but typically before I carry it or anything like that, I fire a few magazines through it, clean the optic off, and I'm golden. So anyway, those are my big ones. That has to happen. So what I do next is I like to go down these rails, inside and out. What I mean by that is down inside of the rail and on the top, right? Because that's gonna ride inside of the slot, in the slide. So I'm gonna hit the same thing on this one, right down in it and on top. Why not on top here? If it doesn't need it, it's gonna run out, honestly. This stuff doesn't tend to hold dirt or that sort of thing. It tends to shed it out. So I'm not afraid of putting too much on here. That, and I've run these things slap full of mud before, and they work fine as long as there's plenty of lubricant in them. All right, for my own peace of mind, I like to put the safety on a 3.5 put together gun, but it is what it is. So now at this point, I'm going to put some more grease on the guide rod and the spring, but I like to make sure that I'm getting it mixed with plenty of oil. So I'll come in here with this guy, and just fair warning, the one that this bottle they sent me actually has been broken since I got it, and so it's kind of a pain to get it to spray. I got another one that I carry in my trailer for classes, and it's just it works just fine. So either way, this one's a little bit of a pain to get to work, but I make sure it gets all down in that rail, and this is where I like to just get it all in here. You know, you can still use this because this is just a paintbrush from Hobby Lobby. So get it all down into this area. Again, this is the part that I like to do. Is definitely some personal preference, not 100% required or anything like that. But definitely, this is a bull barrel, so there's no bushing in it. So I come in here and I put either a little grease on there or just oil. Either one's fine. I'm also gonna put some on the barrel. Again, if it doesn't need it, it'll run out. So let's see, I think for this one, especially because this one's just my backup, it's gonna be sitting for a while. Unless somebody uses it as a loaner in class. I like to come in here, and anywhere I see these marks where the barrel is engaging the slide, I like to put a little thin layer of grease. If it doesn't need it, again, it's gonna come off and I'm gonna wipe it down. And there's a secondary benefit to that. I'll show you in a little bit. So pretty much anywhere on here. Like if I can only do one, it's so hot, I live in Texas. This stuff does work well in the cold, but also, because it's so hot in Texas, this stuff is not going to get even close to gumming up. So I tend to be a little heavy on the grease. Maybe it'll be a different thing where you live, but this is where I live, where I operate. So, all right. Since I've already got the slide where I wanted it, got the grease or oil down in the insides of the slide, but I got grease on this one, they're gonna mix together just fine, don't you worry. I'll take this guy. Yeah, this camera angle's a little bit, oh, you gotta turn the slide way, correct way, dum-dum. Insert this bad boy into here. You can already hear how smooth that connection is between the, yeah, daddy-like. All right, we're just gonna set that aside for now. So this is already lubed up. If I was detail stripping it and pulling the trigger out and all these, I tend to actually coat a few of these things back here with the grease, not so much the oil, but like the sear spring and all the little connectors in there. I don't remember the names of them because I don't care. I don't ever have to order new ones because I buy good guns. But so if I was going to detail strip it, I would grease everything inside, at least to some extent, mostly to prevent rust and maybe a couple of spots for friction, but the rest of it's to prevent rush. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little grease on here because I'm out of my mind. And I have seen guys had a squad designated marksman at a Texas Commission on Law Enforcement course with me, and he was just like, I cannot believe you did that. So you're gonna have to get all that oil out of there. I'm like, no, I'm not. When you're going to put your recoil spring in, I use the closed end up against the end of the guide rod, whether it's a GI guide rod or a full length like this, and it just scraped most of that grease off. But again, I really like to make sure she's got plenty on her, make sure everything works just right. So, all right, so it's all greased up together. Even this reverse plug, man, on the inside, she like it a grease. The good thing about not running an optic on this one is there's nothing to throw the excess oil on, so you can just shoot it to your little heart's content. All right, So if you don't know how to put one of these together, there's lots of videos on the internet about it. There's a little tool made out of a paper clip. I didn't come up with that myself. My local gun shop guy talked me through that because they played this game a few times before. So this guy's all lubed, the spring's all lubed. Again, a lot of this is personal preference, but I like to still come in here, put some right chaw, because any surface that has metal to metal, I would like it to be nice and easy, flow smoothly. Okay, I could have put some on the outside of this guy here. I'll just put a little oil. I think I've used enough grease to freak everybody out enough, so I'm gonna go ahead and drop that guy in right there, make sure. So there's plenty of grease on the inside of the slide here and oil. So I'm gonna go ahead and position that thing correctly. Come in here a little bit. I usually don't actually have to use my brush. I'll just grab oil off of something else because obviously I've got quite a bit and it's quite the nice musk. I don't think my wife likes it, but oh well. All right, I'm gonna go to put this thing back together, make sure the safety's off so that it will actually go together. And here we go. So, gotta line these guys up, just like in an assembly video that should be easy for you to find without looking through my stuff. One of the things I do, you'll notice there's grease and oil all over it. That's how Daddy likes it. All right, I'm gonna come in here. I like to even take a little bit, put on these plungers so that they move easily. If I was detail stripping, I'd definitely do the other side here. A lot of times, honestly, I will. During class, if I start noticing my safety's a little bit stiff, that's what she said, then I'll actually like put the safety on and jam a little bit of oil down in there and just work the safety back and forth to make sure it gets inside of that plunger. So I'm not gonna talk you really through what I'm doing here because you should know by now if you're at this point. And if you don't, there's plenty of videos out there. You don't need one from me. All right, so take my tool off. Put this guy, got the slide stop in, and we are there. Now you'll notice I did clean this thing with the brake cleaner. The downside of the brake cleaner is it kind of leaves, like, it strips a lot of the grease and oil out of the finish. And so this is how you get it back in nice and easily. This gun's pretty covered. You don't have to do it this way. I'll tell you, after years of shooting these guns competitively and professionally as an instructor, I have found that I do like it this way. So now, because it's all over, I can easily rub it down in there. That's also what she said. So going through, getting everything, getting all that excess oil down into these slide cuts, making sure it all gets down in there. Usually, sometimes I'll see a lot of skin build up in here because, again, I'll sit there and I'll rack the thing a couple million times teaching, and so I'll actually get a toothbrush, clean all the excess skin and stuff out of there. We'll just call it dirt, but we know what it really is, and work my way through there. I also like to come in here. I know I put a little grease on it, but I like to put a little down into that hammer, and I'll work that hammer back and forth. Easier to do without the slide on, but at the same time, I've lubed it like this a million times, so I'm not super concerned about it. So again, you want to have plenty of rags, or I'll actually, for teaching, if someone wants to go through how I clean my guns or something like that, or theirs is dirty, I'll do something during chow while everybody's eating. Besides me, I'll eat something real quick and they'll do chow, and I will actually clean their gun in front of them and just to show them how I do it. Not that you don't have to take this to the bank. Some gunsmiths may be not cool with the way that I'm doing it or whatever. Gunsmiths are great people, but I actually do shoot these quite a bit. Except for this one. I really don't shoot this one much, but because my other one just doesn't break. So it's down in the grip, so you can also get that out of there if you really want, but I found I like to run extremely aggressive grips, even more so than this original TRPs. These are some VZs that I got that are even like super aggressive. I like those. And then the lock grips, this is like the TRPs, but they're just a little bit more aggressive on the pointy. So what I like is whenever it starts raining outside, if I'm not wearing gloves, my hands get soft. I want this forward strap and this to start cutting into my hands, because I like that gun to not move without me having to put a lot of pressure into the grips to keep it from moving. So this relaxation leads to better accuracy. All right, so Guys, that's the way I do it. And now if I was gonna set this in the safe, it's ready to go. It's gonna sit there and there's grease on anything that could really rust. You notice, because I had all that excess on here, it wiped onto this carbon steel rear sight, which has been known to rust. Just about any of them that are made out of carbon steel will. And then it's down here in these this checkering, where I tend to see a lot of stuff collect dirt, dust, and it can rust also, because that traps moisture in there, and the checkering on the back. So it's ready to sit in the safe or sit in my holster and go to work. I can pick this thing up, and man, there's just not a whole lot better to me in the gun world than the sound of a well-fitted 1911 that's been properly greased going together. Daddy like. All right. Hope you guys could see this one better, and it's not quite as long. So